What we want to do today is take a look at these 5 keys and why they matter so much in the course of making residential care work. Most of you are entering residential care on a small scale, which means you're looking to operate 6 beds, 8 beds, 12. You're not doing a 200-bed memory care unit somewhere. And so this information is designed to be applicable specifically for you. Some of you are operating personal care homes in Georgia, adult family care homes and other assisted living models in Florida, group homes in Mississippi and or Michigan. That's okay. The principles discussed here today apply no matter where you are, and we treat it just that way. Notice the introductory comments, which are rooted in absolute reality. It is hard to imagine a time when assisted living will not be needed. More often than we might imagine, there are adults and children who cannot be taken care of by family. In some cases, there is no family to assist. And as a result, they need community-based initiatives to help manage their daily lives. And this presentation is designed to provide entrepreneurs with that early insight needed to make good decisions and minimize operational stress. Another issue that's prominent right now when it comes to smaller assisted living, and that is this. There are a significant number of people who, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, are no longer trusting in the nursing home business model. They just don't trust it. Because COVID ran rampant through the nursing home community, and there were so many deaths because there's so many patients and very often crowded together, sometimes up to 4 in a room, depending upon where you're licensed or to what extent you might have been grandfathered in as a facility. And so with that COVID fear, people are looking for the more smaller, manageable environment. There's still many visitor restrictions in place in the group home. And of course, that can be uncomfortable for families. However, you'd rather only be able to visit once a week and visit electronically otherwise than to be up worried about whether or not somebody you love is being exposed to a communicable virus that could take their life. So let's move on to item 1 in making sure that we're successful. I'm a yellow pad guy. That means I've always got a clipboard somewhere with a yellow pad on it. And that goes hand in hand with what we're discussing today, pre-planning. We don't want to go into the business not having properly planned things. That can be a real problem. And my job today is to help you to avoid it. It might seem obvious, but it really is a science. And here's what it must include when you're going to go into small scale group living situations. 1, whom will I serve? This affects your marketing, contracting, relationship building, and any specialization. I'll give an example. If you're going to serve the mentally ill or those with developmental limitations, it is obvious that for the most part, you're not going to find people who can afford to pay you for your services. Neither can their families, which means you've got to rely upon public dollars. That might mean a community mental health agency in your area or an ARC or something you're going to have to contract with in order for you to be able to get paid. That's understandable. That's how the business works. That means that you're going to have to design a program built around their needs. For example, in whom you will serve, let's say you're going to contract with the community mental health agency, and you're going to reach out to them in advance of putting the program together. For what purpose? 1, are they contracting right now? So that you can be aware if it's a waste of your time this year, but a worthy goal next year or later in this year to pursue that relationship with them with the goal of contracting with them. You also want to know what special requirements might be in place. Very often, here's a major stumbling block, and that is this, is that you will put together a program that is in complete compliance with licensing requirements, with regulatory requirements in your state. And if you're in a place like Florida where the county gets involved, then with your county as well. But all too often, there are other requirements over and above licensing requirements that are mandated by community mental health authorities, sometimes Medicaid waiver agents as well. So you've got to make sure you know both ends. And then the second thing is to have a backup plan. And you may say, well, listen, I want to serve the mentally ill and those with developmental or intellectual disorder. So as a result of that, I don't need a backup plan. I'm just going to work with these agencies. But at the same time, those agencies are pushing back, or the agency in your area is. So have you developed a specialization? Some homes serve the chronically obese. Some homes serve those who have narcotic histories or narcotic abuse histories. Some homes serve those who are mentally ill and have intellectual disorders, but at the same time are over the age of 65 and have a degree of medical fragility. Perhaps you're dealing with COPD or something else that limits them. They're using oxygen 24/7. So in addition to your home being equipped to help manage their behavioral considerations, perhaps your home is also equipped to manage this medical fragility. And it might be a backup plan. For example, this agency says, we will not contract with you this year. So do you fold your arms and walk away? Or do you reason, wait a minute, I'm in an American, urban, metropolitan area. Therefore, is it logical for me to conclude that I can find 6 other residents who meet the criterion I need financially and otherwise so I can have a viable business, and then look at contracting with this agency later? Take Metro Atlanta, Georgia, for example, with 3.9 million people, Metro Detroit, 3.7 million people, and you can't find 6 with the right plan to operate a residential care business. I would say to that entrepreneur, something is not wrong with the environment, something is wrong with you, if you reason that way. And we're going to get to how to attract those residents soon. And everything, of course, is predicated on your business model. But that backup plan is what serves you well. Who does it not serve well? Well, I'll tell you, IBM. Now today, they've made a pretty major comeback in large server and even in the mainframe business. But you remember when the PCs began to take over and IBM just laughed while Gateway and Dell and Hewlett-Packard and Acer were eating up the market. When IBM felt we'll stay with the big servers and we'll be just fine, what they didn't take into consideration that was those PCs were going to figure out a way to connect together and need less large servers, less mainframe activity. The world was changing, and IBM suffered for decades because of it. And today, they've made somewhat of a comeback with a focus on the server business. But truth be told, they lost tens of billions because of not having a backup plan. You want to have one. It needs to dominate your thinking. Your pre-planning will also consider item or bullet number 3. What will my capacity be? Now that's rooted in regulatory requirements and home layout. You need to decide in advance what your capacity is going to be. Are you going to serve 3? Are you going to serve 4? And several things are considered in that decision. One is how many you want to serve based upon the amount of work you want that home to carry out, how many you can serve if you're going to be a licensed facility that local regulation will allow you to serve. And then here's the other thing, and it's really a big one. The other thing is that you can't forget is you want to make sure it's an environment you want to live in. So how big is that bedroom? Okay, even if you're going to be unlicensed, you say, well, I can put 2 beds in here, but how tight is it going to be for those 2 residents? Are they going to feel like they're laying on top of each other? Would you want to live like that? Would you want a prison feeling experience? So a number of things are going to go into that capacity decision, but make that decision first, very often, even before you select the home. Who will initially and long-term run the daily operations? Well, this must meet regulatory requirements, but there are also certain ingredients that need to go into that person, that interim or long-term administrator. Michigan is a good example. You've got to be a high school graduate. You've got to have 1 year or 2,000 hours with some level of hands-on experience working with the population you identify in your program, the mentally ill, the wheelchair user, the traumatically brain injured, or whomever. Sometimes the person started a business, the entrepreneur doesn't have that experience, so they'll hire someone to provide that for a certain time, and that's okay. Very often that's doable and doesn't violate any requirements. But what about that person? Are you convinced they're not a quitter? Are you convinced that they can sit down and reason with an employee and not rob that employee of their dignity, forcing you to intervene and try to maintain reasonable staff levels because this person can't manage relationships. I'll tell you a story. When you've been out here 30 years, you get a bunch of them, and I have them. I hired a gentleman from Health Alliance Plan well over 25 years ago. And I thought James was an ideal candidate. He had managerial experience. He understood the managed care market with a combined adult daycare and home care environment. I was convinced he could provide some leadership. What I did not know and what I did not ascertain is that in addition to being possessive, in addition to being a bit jealous, he had real problems with the respect the staff had for me. Well, they were going to have respect for me. I had developed a program. I had a buddy in Wisconsin. I'd leave for a few days to go hang out with Kurt in Wisconsin. And James would turn that business into a slave camp. He insulted people. He was insecure. He did not understand the nuances of managing relationships. So, and of course, I had to fire him. You want to attract people and develop people and mentor people who at least understand the key ingredients that go into relationship management, and that includes never, ever robbing someone of their dignity, even in challenging conversations. That's the kind of administrator you want. And if that's you, those are the qualities you want to continue to work on in yourself. The next, what will my cash needs be? Okay, let's see. I'm going to run a small program for residents. What is the first consideration in determining what my cash needs are or will be? Are you ready? Because this might surprise you. Your first consideration is how much you need to take out of that business to improve or maintain the lifestyle you prefer. So it's a, let's say it's a 4-bed home, and you've made the decision that this is not worth my time if I can't add $36,000 to my personal bottom line. So I need $3,000 a month out of this home in order to make it worth my while. And there might be months when my census is down and I won't make as much, but most of the year I need to make that. And that's worth it for me. And maybe I'm going to have 10 of these. And so I'll bring in $30,000 a month, but I need that minimum. Okay, so if it's a 4-bed home and you're going to have 4 residents, let's just say it is an unlicensed model, more room and board focused with support services. Those support services could include a home care agency popping in to assist those who need it and being reimbursed by Medicaid or Medicare. It'd be a Meals on Wheels delivery, and so that cuts down on your food expense. You've got possession of their bridge cards issued by the state where they live. That cuts down on your food expense. So you've got a capacity for 4, and you've decided this home is worth $2,500 a month each. Why? It's luxurious. It's super clean. Nobody feels tight. There's a deck in the back they can go sit on and smoke and enjoy. There's a barbecue pit for staff to use. It's worth that. But this person cannot go over there where they demand $4,500 and no less. This person can't go in a nursing home as a private pay patient because that's $9,500 and no less. So you're going to pay $2,500. They're going to have breakfast snacks. They're going to have a dinner delivered. 4 gives you $10,000 a month. The person who's going to come in 5 days a week, drop off the dinner, check with everybody and give them some socialization, make sure the home is clean every evening. That person is going to cost you $1,800 a month. Another person is popping in to deliver the dinner, to check on the home, to give the residents some socialization every evening, 5 p.m. to 7:30, 8 o'clock, whatever. And that person is going to take care of the weekends. Every weekend, they're going to be there for you. And that person is going to cost you $1,200 a month. Okay, so we're at $3,000. We'll go $3,500 to be safe. Those food deliveries are going to cost you, let's say they're going to cost you $35 a day for you to have food delivered. And so we're at $900 or so. So that takes us up to roughly $4,400. You're renting a house that costs you $1,500 a month. That takes us to $59. You're going to pay $250 a month because you're going to have some liability insurance. Somebody could trip up the steps or something, and you just want to have that protection. So let's put us up to $6,300. Now you're bringing in 10. So you can afford to go to 7 with utilities and still take out that $3 grand a month that you need to make your life worth it. And we're going to talk about some things in just a minute that will be involved in making sure you maintain that waiting list, etc. We together so far? That's how you simplistically, yet with accuracy and reality, determine your cash needs. But the first consideration is not how much the water bill is going to be. That has to be in the budget. But the first consideration is, what do I need? Because the reward must first go to the entrepreneur creating the opportunity. And lastly, is my mindset prepared? Is my mindset ready for the things that I need to do to make this business work? Do I understand that I might have a cash flow issue sometime? Now I'm going to overcome it because I'm going to keep 15 grand sitting over here in this account so I can minimize the stress on myself. But all too often I've seen in group home management the kind of entrepreneur that when things are not ideal, their first focus is to blame somebody. That guy told me I could do this. Well, you probably could, but you didn't put the work in. Well, that lady over there told me this. No. Regardless of what professional advice you pay for and attract, it is your business. So we never want to play the blame game. The biggest problem with that blame game is that you can't get better and then do better the next go round. So when we take responsibility, we refine ourselves and things are better next go round. The other issue is there could be a phone call from a neighbor across the street who noticed there was a visitor to the home at 12:45 at night. It's 1:45 in the morning. And while it's a room and board situation, you do have rules. And those rules include your rebellious granddaughter can't spend the night here. Neither can she visit at 1:45 in the morning. Nobody can visit past 8:30 p.m. because it can be disruptive to others. Your staff just left. Dinner's been made. Everybody's going to bed. There's a camera on that door as well. Now, are you going to get upset? Well, you can't get upset because every business has these managerial items that need to be addressed. So you're going to address it with your resident. You're going to address it with that granddaughter if necessary. You're going to give a thank you card to that neighbor. The reality is this: those things come up. I had an employee in the home care business some years ago. She's in the living room of my client's home screaming at Sprint on her cell phone about the fact that her phone service had been disconnected and blah, blah, blah. And I had to, excuse me, that's not my client's business. Take that to another room. She's got a balcony. Go out there. But again, as a manager, I had to address it. You've got to have the right mindset. You can't run from these things. Next is the right property. Let's get into why this matters so much. By the way, you're looking at my personal residence on this slide. I should tell Ian next time, don't use my house. Anyway, but it's okay. Why does this matter so much? For one, the right property affects the draw of potential residents. Now, you and I, we don't like stereotypes. I think stereotypes are worthless. While it is true there are certain things that are true about certain people, depending on where they're from, or how they think, how they were brought up, there's so many variations. Many of us change. The kind of employment I took when I was almost 19 years old certainly set me apart from many with whom I grew up in the neighborhood. So the right property affects the draw of potential residents. If in fact you're looking to draw those with physical handicaps, be careful with a colonial. Some families might just drive by. Their thought process, oh, good Lord, this got bedrooms upstairs. This house is built for a family. And so you went into business to serve the medically fragile elderly with physical limitations, but the home doesn't look like one that could accommodate them. You got to think about that. The right property also matches the taste of the community. Have you driven through Dearborn lately and seen all these homes in these neighborhoods that were put up that are an absolute no match for the rest of the neighborhood? Got to be careful there. If we were to do something like that with new construction or even with a remodeling project, and the home ends up not blending in with the community, it could also turn people off. The right property also determines capacity. If you know you want to serve 6 people, can you find a home with 6 bedrooms or a home with 4 that allows you to take a den and cut that in half and make it 2? See, so in other words, even as you're selecting properties, you're thinking about these things that determine what kind of property you need. The right property also impacts community presentation. Again, while it's okay to stand out, we need to stand out for the right reason. And I will tell you that curb appeal matters in more than just real estate. Curb appeal also matters in that house. Somebody pulls up, they see a porch without railings, they see a door that needs paint. Their thought process could easily become, if you're not paying attention to the little things, what assurance will I have from you that the big things matter? Elegance and practicality. Now, there's some physical plant realities, even in a small group home, that I want to talk to you about. 30 years we've been out here, 115 if you count my entire team. These may come across as simplistic, but they matter. Make sure the paint is even on the walls. Even. In other words, they ran the roller over here 3 times, looks great. They ran it over here once, boy, that looks deficient. Don't have that happening. And make sure the trim is a variation from the color on the wall. If the walls are a light gray, can the trim be a dark gray? Can the trim be white? And why does that matter? Because especially when we're dealing with those who are depressed, light and well-defined decor could affect and or contribute to a positive mindset. That matters. That matters. And so you want to make the effort to have the kind of eye appeal, that aesthetic appeal, the minute someone walks in. When you have that, what you will end up with is a conclusion on the part of visitors that the little things matter. Use quality bedding. Nobody says that you have to be in a situation wherein you've got to buy this down pillow or this special order thing from Wayfair. But there are also comforters you could buy at certain stores that are so paper thin, it just looks like you don't care about my dad being warm enough at night. So let's buy quality bedding that matches and have beds that have headboards on them. Those headboards you can buy at the Council for the Blind on Warren Avenue and other places for $5 and $6. Brand new, they're $100 or more. But even on twin size beds, headboards make a difference. What do you think of these looks? These are from Heartfelt Residential Care. These are from Embrace Group Home. These are from Briar Hill in Farmington Hills. These are all programs that we developed. If you see the shower there, now Heartfelt has 4 homes now because they just bought Embrace. I love my friend Derek. He's under 30, a wonderful entrepreneur. But he had his father put barrier-free showers, as you can see there, in every home. And of course, those make a difference. Now, some of you who might be doing the room and board kind of thing would not invest into that unless it was a really high-end situation and you're being compensated accordingly. But in the license program that is designed to adhere to certain protocol for those with fragility and ambulation issues, then this certainly matters. Let's talk about relationship building. Our next point in our keys, 5 keys. Relationship building matters, and you should not be shy about it. So join these meaningful organizations. Many of them will have an annual fee, but every organization has a membership fee. Paralyzed Veterans of America, doesn't hurt to join. And you could end up receiving numerous referrals for residential care. The Brain Injury Association in your area. Now, if you're not going to serve those with traumatic brain injuries, maybe this affiliation will not be as important. But even if you're not serving the brain injury, you get exposed to so many guardians, independent case managers, and others that referrals would likely still come. And then the Area Agencies on Aging Association in your state. Michigan has one, Florida has one. So in addition to the Area Agency on Aging being a part of that association, many offer these auxiliary memberships to those who are not area agencies on aging. So you get this every Friday, every other Friday, a newsletter, faxed or emailed to you. You get access to the membership list, just like you would when you join the Case Management Society in your chapter. And so when you put together these email campaigns for these people, what ends up happening is that you now have access to all these individuals and their email addresses. And I'll go spamming people and damage relationships before they can even occur. However, the access you get from joining them at certain networking events, even online, will be meaningful for your home. You got to have an advertising budget, which is our next key. Small entrepreneurs who are smart entrepreneurs spread money around. Local newspapers, the Metro Times, the Michigan Chronicle, neighborhood-oriented radio stations. When I started in the adult daycare many years ago, I used WMUZ, which is 103.5. It's still functioning right now as a gospel station. I knew, as a Medicaid waiver provider, that most I serve would not be able to pay me. They could make a $10 a day contribution to the program, but they couldn't pay what I think we're getting at that time, 50, 60 bucks a day to be in our adult daycare program. So what I did was I ran the radio campaign in lower income and in minority neighborhoods. And WMUZ was among the main radio stations that accomplished that. I think they're still on Plymouth Road in Detroit or Redford Township today. And I have to be honest with you, they developed a commercial for me. If I did it today, I've developed my own. This is 1995, and we had a tremendous response. You know, I might have told you this, and I don't say it to brag, but to give you the power of mass media. You know, we in 16 months, we went to 80 people a day in that program. It was a huge adult daycare program. I'm glad I picked the right building from the beginning. So never downplay it. Step one would be to contact the radio station, sit down with one of their representatives. And then when you do that, let them know what your goals are and tell them, I want to put a program together that I can invest $1,000 a month in. You'd be surprised how many spots you can get for 25, 35 bucks a spot. And your name is out there. Your name is out there to that person driving to work in the morning. Picture them in their car. That person driving home in the evening. That person listening to the radio in a work cafeteria. And one of those people is struggling with caregiving at home. One of those people has to get mom out of her house because it's just not safe anymore. And she lives a mile from your place. They don't know it because the word's not out. And then, of course, there's community presentation. It might be in a local VFW hall. It might be in a local church after a service. Send them a letter and request permission. And then you want to give a presentation. It's going to be 15 minutes about why your residential program is properly positioned, properly located, conveniently located, properly supervised to render the care you went into business to give. Powerful networking I talked about earlier by joining the associations. Do not be shy about it. What makes you special? I'm going to tell you what makes you special. That you had the nerve to go into business for yourself. That you had the nerve to spend your life creating a certain independence that comes from entrepreneurship. So there's no basis to be shy. Get out there and let folks know who you are and what you do and why you're better. I'll give you an example. Some of you may know that my degree, well, one of them is in healthcare administration. One of the things that I do in business is I assist providers of care who are reimbursed by insurance companies to justify their rates. I won't tell you how many lawyers have tried to destroy me in an arbitration or otherwise. And I haven't lost yet. So you're telling him that his rates are not rooted in reality, or his rates do not represent the reality of the market. Lady, you're wrong. Here's why you're wrong. He has a right to consider this expense, that expense, this expense, that expense, this expense. And when I break it down that way, we win. But I can't approach it with shyness. I know what I'm talking about. And you got to be the same way. Neighborhood outreach is the same thing. You may not attract 30 people who need you, but I would certainly be passing postcards out throughout my community, 5 streets over one way, 5 streets over that way, 5 streets to the south, 5 streets to the north. And everybody's going to get that postcard, and they're going to know that right in the middle of their community is a place they can call home, not just for long-term stays, but also respite care. Now, there are some business models that are not set up for respite, like the Florida Adult Family Care Home. But in other locales, you can have respite care. Family wants to go to Disney World. Grandpa is just too weak. He's too fragile. He's coming to your place. You charge $150 a night, so it's going to cost us $1,500 for him to stay there 10 nights, but he gets $1,900 a month. What is his money for, if not for his care? So we'll be bringing you that money when we drop him off. But you got to have the word out that respite care is something you provide. I like to remind providers, stop saying you're in the assisted living business in every conversation. That's good for the institutional conversations. But how about saying I'm in the family relief business? I'm in the caregiver relief business. It's just a more powerful approach. But you'll find me jumping on you if I see you being shy. Being shy for what? When your service, whether it's assisted living or home care or some other community-based model, keeps families together and minimizes caregiver stress and abuse and neglect. Put a budget together. Look at this sample display ad that would be in a newspaper. We used an image that shows a stressed caregiver. Again, this is just a sample, but it asks a question: are you stressed from family caregiving or know someone who is? Again, you got to get to the heart of it. It's like the Costco's and the Sam's Club. You know the pitch. Are you tired of going to 3 places to get 3 things? Come to one place. We got everything. And you know it works. You've been in those places. And those of us who go there and buy our family items, that's great. But a whole lot of gas station owners go there too. A whole lot of party store owners go there too to get things to run their business. And it's nice to be able to do that without going to 5 different places. Well, again, you want to be the same way. You want to appeal to that need. You know how it works in America, right? You make money by doing things a lot of folks don't want to do or cannot do well. I remember a home care case I had 2 friends. We were in the car. We went to Fridays out in Southfield. This is back in over 20 years ago. And, you know, I became a running joke because they had come by a client's house and I was attending to a wound on her rear end, among other things. And I vacuumed. And then my employee showed up and I was able to go. And they laughed in the car. My goodness, Bruce, look at what you're doing for a living. That client was paying me $50,000 every 3 months. $50,000. I told her I was laughing with him all the way to the bank. And to this day, I have greater financial assets than both of them and probably always will. Again, I was willing, I remain willing to do things others may look down upon. I will tell you, when I was treating Mrs. Hodge, I will tell you, I couldn't even get some of her family to come in the bedroom to show them some of the complex things we were dealing with, and that's okay. That's why I was there. I was there because I got paid to do things others found uncomfortable. In conclusion, folks, certain ingredients can surely come together and become major success contributors. Those of us who work as technical advisors and project managers can be the boost you need to stay motivated, informed, and regulatory compliant. And we hold hands long after you're done paying for us. And even we're never more than an email away. However, it is your business. You need to look for ways to immerse yourself into the long-term care community and successfully take advantage of meaningful relationships. As I said before, there is nothing to be shy about. You are assisting families to manage the stress of caregiving and helping to minimize neglect and abuse associated with stressful caregiving. So step out proudly and be a winner. Hold hands with those who can help you move along. Be careful sharing in conversation with those who always see the negative. We simply do not have time for those people. You want to be focused on making sure that your community knows your commitment. You got a right to sleep all night. So organize the business so appropriate management is in place and your life is not so disrupted that being an entrepreneur is no longer enjoyable. But at the same time, go into it understanding there's work involved. And we didn't put this presentation together for questions and answers at the end, which means that in the event you have one, feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to make a contribution to what you're doing in any way that we can. Most importantly, we desire to congratulate you because of your decision to do what's right for other people. And I think you would agree, there are significant numbers out there who simply cannot get it done on their own. And so they rely upon businesses like yours. That being said, we want to thank you for joining us for this brief presentation. We're going to disconnect now. And as always, wish you well in everything you're doing.